You ever been to Humboldt Park in Chicago? It's a nice neighborhood these days, but a few years back, it wasn't the kind of place you'd want to wander around in after dark. I know because, well, that's where I found the house on Haddon Avenue. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Maybe it's to get it off my chest, or maybe it's just to warn you. But that place, that house, if you ever come across it, don't go inside. And if you think I'm exaggerating, just just listen. You see, I was fresh out of college, broke as hell, and had just moved to Chicago. I was working late nights at this dive bar downtown, cleaning up after everyone else had gone. The hours were rough, but I didn't have a choice. Rent's high, and when you're just starting out, you take what you can get. One night around 3 a.m., I was walking back to my apartment on the west side. Humboldt Park was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like you're the last person left in the world. I remember there was this low fog that night, drifting between the buildings like smoke. And as I passed an old block on Haddon Avenue, something caught my eye. It was this big gray house standing at the end of the street. All the other buildings around it were run down, but this house looked worse, like it had been abandoned for years. The paint was peeling, the windows were dark, and the front yard was overgrown with weeds and wildflowers. The kind of place you'd expect kids to dare each other to go into on Halloween. But there was something else. A light, a faint glow, coming from one of the upstairs windows. It was strange, like someone was there, like they were waiting. I don't know what got into me, but I stopped. Just stared at that house, feeling this pull, like it was calling to me. And before I knew it, my feet were moving, carrying me up to the front porch. The steps creaked beneath me, and well, the door was unlocked. It opened with this slow, dragging sound, and a rush of stale, musty air hit me. It smelled like mold, like the inside of a damp basement. But there was something else, too. Something metallic, like old blood. I should have turned around. I know that now. But I stepped inside, flashlight in hand, my heart hammering in my chest. I remember thinking, maybe someone needs help. Maybe that's why the light was on. The first room I walked into was the living room. There was a sofa there covered in plastic, and an old dusty armchair next to it. The walls were lined with faded wallpaper, curling at the edges, and in the center of the room was a table with a glass ashtray full of cigarette butts. It looked like someone had been there recently, but everything was coated in dust. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" My voice echoed, coming back to me empty. Nothing. But then I heard it, a faint sound, like someone whispering. At first I thought it was just the wind, but no, it was coming from upstairs. I can't explain it, but I was compelled. I wanted to leave, but something pushed me to go on. As I stepped into the hallway, I could feel the walls closing in, and the smell was getting stronger, sharper, almost acidic. I moved slowly, every step creaking beneath me as I made my way toward the stairs. And the whispers, they were getting louder. Not words I could understand, but whispers that twisted and curled around my mind, making my head ache. I climbed the stairs, one step at a time, feeling like I was being watched. When I reached the top, I saw the light. It was coming from a room at the end of the hall, spilling out from under a closed door. I walked toward it, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. And then I heard it, a voice clear as day, whispering my name. "Mike." I pushed the door open and I don't know if I'll ever be able to explain what I saw. The room was empty except for a single chair in the center, facing the wall. The light was coming from an old lamp on the floor, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. And then I noticed something on the walls. Words. Names. Dozens of names, scratched into the paint. Some of them were so faint they looked like they'd been there for years, but others looked fresh, like they'd been carved in recently. And there, near the bottom, was my name. "Mike." I stumbled back, my heart racing. I turned to leave, but the door was closed. I didn't remember closing it, but it was shut, and no matter how hard I tried, it wouldn't budge. That's when I heard it, the sound of footsteps, slow and heavy coming down the hall. Closer and closer, each step echoing like a drum beat, like it was counting down to something terrible. I pounded on the door, yelling for help, but no one answered. The footsteps stopped right outside the door, and then I felt it, a cold hand pressing against my shoulder. I don't know how I got out. One second I was in that room, and the next I was stumbling down the street, gasping for air. I don't remember running down the stairs or pushing through the door, but I must have. When I looked back, the house was dark, quiet, like nothing had happened. But something followed me. Every night since then, I've heard those whispers. I see shadows moving in the corners of my apartment, and sometimes I feel that cold hand on my shoulder, like it's reminding me that I'll never really be free. So if you're ever in Humboldt Park and you find yourself near Haddon Avenue, keep walking. Don't look at that house. Don't even think about it. Because once it's got your name, well, it never lets go. Mike, it's waiting for me even now. And someday, I know I'll go back.